the melody of the song, but I don't know the actual song. I know it goes Monday, Monday, which it is, as of this being live, but I actually don't know. Wow, that's a really good sketch of someone. Huh. Sorry, I just happened to see somebody had posted a sketch of, like a live sketch it looked like. It looked really good. So, did I? Oh, I posted that. Okay, close this. Okay, we're live. Good. I have to give it a second for the social stream app to catch up. Okay, it looks like my post is live on IG. I muted my phone amazingly beforehand. Since I'm doing this far earlier. Sorry, I didn't mean to shoot my volume way up, but very early compared to normal because I actually get today off in observance of Juneteenth, which is technically Friday. The 19th is I believe is the right day. Boy, I really should make sure I'm pretty sure it is. Hold on, let me make sure of that. I want to make sure. I'm pretty sure it's the 19th. Because I know I got today off in observance, which, you know, I didn't know what that meant for a long time. I didn't know what in observance of meant. I didn't realize that meant that you got a day off, even though it wasn't the actual day that, okay, yeah, June 19th. Okay, that's what I thought, Juneteenth, that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, I didn't know what in observance meant, but that's what it means. Let's check the live sources, see if it shows up yet. Hey, it does, good. It's pretty quick, relatively. Activate. Let's go to here, we'll go to live chat. Activate the box, which I always forget. All right, let's do a quick test. Test 1. I heard the thing, I see the thing. Test 2. Okay, we're ready to go. So let us do, where's the be right back thing? Oh, I need my opening. I have got to rearrange these windows. I really do. All right, do that. There we are. There we are. Yeah, I've got all these things I have to rearrange these at some point. I have 2 open emus, which I shouldn't. Not that it really matters. Oh, hey, oh, reflector's hidden. Boom, there we go. Almost know what I'm doing. Oh, and I have to switch this to multi-stream. Okay, well, as you can tell, probably from the more haphazard opening than usual. Sorry, I get an itch right near the mic. I don't want to hit it. I'm just now having my morning coffee, so bear with me a minute. As it is very early here. Well, very early, I guess is subjective. It's earlier than certainly usual because normally I do these at about 6:30 p.m. Pacific. It is just about 9 a.m. And this actually fell perfectly because I just did a black coat of paint because I'm going to do an actual physical painting today since I have the time and I want to use this day off to be creative, as well as getting other things done. And so I have to wait for that paint to dry. Even though acrylic dries very quickly, you still do have to wait. So I figured, okay, well, I'll do a stream for around an hour. By then, it will have been close to 2 hours since I actually put the paint to canvas. And that should be enough for me to start working on it and not worry about anything getting messed up. And yeah, so that's why we're doing a stream. Plus I have this to work on, so I might as well just go ahead and do it. So, I don't know how many people are going to join because this is so much earlier than usual. So some of the people who normally come to the stream probably won't. But you know what? That also gives an opportunity for people who normally can't make the typical time to show up. I don't know if anybody will. That's fine. It's fine. I never really expect anybody to show up to these things. Actually, if people show up, that's great. If they do, they don't. That's okay. I think a lot of people probably end up actually watching these later on the YouTube channel. I'm perfectly fine with that. Really doesn't matter. I mean, it's not like, honestly. Wow, look at this. Artificial flavor shows up. Well, happy Monday. Hold on, I'm drinking coffee. That's what you do on a microphone, slurp things. Well, at least I didn't spill it on myself this time. But, God, I don't even remember where I was going. Oh, I was going to say, not that this is much of a promotion for the live stream, but it's not like anything happens on the live stream that doesn't happen. You know, in the YouTube thing, you see it all. So, I don't get bothered. I know there's people who really try to do all these things to to drive, you know, their live stream engagement or whatever. I don't do any of that stuff. Actually, what would be really funny, actually, maybe this has happened before now that I think about it, is if somebody did a raid. I didn't even really know what raids were until, I don't know, like 3-4 months ago or so, where this idea that you can, if you're ending your Twitch stream, you can take everybody who's on it and you can send them to another one. If I suddenly, there was one time where I think the stream got up to, I don't know, I want to say like 9 viewers. Maybe it was a raid from somebody, because I can't understand why it happened like that. There was just this very, very brief little surge, and that was it. It was a blip, or maybe I just happened to time it when nobody else was streaming and people just wanted something to watch. Yeah, that's fine too. That's, you know, there's a place for, there's always been a place for, and this has been true since entertainment started, for, well, there's nothing else on, so I guess this'll have to do. I am perfectly comfortable being a, well, there's nothing else streaming, so I guess this'll have to do. That's okay. I don't care. I'm not being sponsored by Monster Energy or Red Bull or anybody where I have to demonstrate numbers. Boy, oh boy, am I glad about that. Could you imagine having to worry about delivering these numbers that you keep having the advertisers? That's one thing that's nice about the Patreon model. There's really no expectation on that. You're on paid time off. Oh, PTO. What are you burning hours artificially? You just got to use time up. I actually have to do that myself soon because I never take time off. So I think at this point, because I accrue hours for both vacation and sick time, there is actually a cap on sick time. That cap is 720 hours. And I'm pretty sure I've been past that cap for at least 6 months. And when I say that, I don't mean I just hit the cap. I mean, I keep forgetting to burn a day or two here or there just so I'm not accruing anything. I've been 700 hours plus for at least 5 years. At least. And that time I only went under because my wife needed me to stay home and help her out for a couple weeks, and so I took a couple weeks off, and that was it. Other than that, I don't use sick time. Part of it is just because if I go to work and I'm sick, which I have done, because you can be sick but not so sick you can't work. I just don't go near anybody. I stay, there's places I go and I work. There's nobody there. So I don't, the thing that bothers me is people who come in sick and then sit there in an office hacking up a lung right next to other people. Okay, in that case, either go somewhere else, because most of the people that I work with do not have to be at their desk all the time to work. So if you're sick, actively sick, don't get other people sick. Stay home or go somewhere else. I'm lucky that, not just me, that's why I said we. The place I work, most of the people there do not need to be sitting at their desks all day. I mean, I think most jobs people want to be sitting at their desks all day. And, unless you're in a very, very small cubicle farm where there's nowhere to go, which I know there are those, but that's not what our situation is where I work. So you can go somewhere else and get away from people so you don't make them sick. I do not understand that about people. You know that you're sick. Don't make other people sick. I really just try never to make other people sick. That seems like kind of a basic thing that people should be able to do and understand. I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts. I work from home. See, there you go. I mean, to some degree, being sick working from home might be more miserable because you're just sitting there in a vacuum being sick, but at least you're not worried about infecting anybody. So there is that. That's a good gig to have. I hope that we see more of that, not less of it, because I know now it seems like everybody's trying to get away from that now. Just so stupid. And not based on anything, of course, but what else is new? So many times, things that leadership and management, with quotes around it, come up with are based on nothing. Oh yeah, I saw that. I gotta look at that. Because that would be actually kind of useful. I mean, I use I use Apple Music for my playlist stuff, and I upload everything I buy from Bandcamp into my iTunes Match thing, so it's not like I haven't really been able to make that work. But I want to make them on Bandcamp as well, because I just like having multiple copies of stuff everywhere. Hold on a minute, I'm going to sip coffee here. Man, I love coffee. I really do love coffee. And there are going to be people who are like, oh, when I say this, I like Starbucks coffee. I know that's like something you're not supposed to say now. Everybody's supposed to like, you know, corner shop, no name, whatever coffee thing in Starbucks is over. What do they call it? They roast it too long or something, and you know, oh, Starbucks bad. Okay, I'm never gonna cheerlead for a huge corporation, which I'm not. Although I do like the one that I go to the same Starbucks place all the time, and the people, I know them there, and they're nice people. So I do like the fact that I'm hopefully keeping them employed. There is that aspect to it. That's kind of the offset for things like, well, Starbucks is a huge, you know, faceless megacore, and it is, but the people who work there aren't. So I know it sucks. That's the thing that's terrible, is it's very hard to root for the kind of downfall of big companies because so many people work for them. That's sort of the moral quandary of it, right? Because on face value, I don't like big companies. And I think that in the long term, they are actually bad for individuals, but in the world that we actually live in, they do employ lots of people. So for me to root for them to not do well, I can't really, it's hard. You know, it's even something like Amazon, which I have tried to, I shouldn't even say tried. I'm actually doing pretty well at not buying a lot of stuff from Amazon anymore. Actually, what did I just went, I was just about to say I went and picked something up, but it was from Target, so I don't know if there's really a difference there. Although, you know what? Actually, I shouldn't say that. Because my shower towel, which I've used for a long time, finally is at the point where it was falling apart. Like, literally falling apart. The edges were fraying off. You know? And so I went, okay, I have to replace this towel. I have literally run this thing until it is fraying. There was a point where I held it up, and I realized I could see through parts of it because it had worn down so much, because I've had it for a pretty long time. And so I went to Amazon because I wanted to get one with like a nice bright color. So I went, okay, well, let me see, because stores typically have really boring colors. They tend to be beige and, you know, baby blue and like a light pink or rosé or whatever they call it. Like, it's just standard issue, almost hotel colors. Very unimaginative. So I went to Amazon. I did find some nice colors. The problem is every one of them wanted to sell you 3 or 5 of them. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy these if I don't need them. It's just wasteful. So I did a pickup order at Target. And I'm like, well, it's not really all that much different from Amazon. But I didn't end up buying stuff I didn't need and just being wasteful. I mean, eventually I probably will need another towel. But I don't need it now. So that was one of those where I'm kind of like, I don't know if there was actually any tangible benefit to it, but I do try to default away from Amazon where I can. But then I feel bad about that because I was just on the Heartbeat Heroes radio show on Saturday, 2 days ago, and one of the people who joined backstage is an Amazon driver. So I'm like, well, this is how this guy lives. So everything is just it's kind of that thing. If you've ever seen the Good Place show, there's a point in that show where there's a realization that the idea of morality is so different now than it ever would have been. It becomes ever more complicated as time goes on because so many things are interconnected. So, you know, because if you don't know, The Good Place is basically a show about kind of the morality workings of the afterlife. And it's based on this idea of a point system. And so every action that you take in life has points, positive or negative. And those get tabulated. And this is, I think there is an actual religion that's relatively like that. It doesn't have points, I don't think, but it's kind of the idea of that the balance of morality and kind of the sum total of your actions determine what happens in your afterlife. And anyway, so the show has this idea. It's using literally an accountant model for it. And there's a point where they realize that even just buying, I think they use the example of buying a tomato to try to be healthier, to take care of yourself, which seems itself a benign and positive act. Trying to be healthier and eat better food has all these negative points on the other end of it because the tomato plants were sprayed with pesticide. The farmer who owns the land didn't pay his people minimum wage. You know, they were transported in trucks that expelled greenhouse gas. So it contributed to the overall decline of the climate. You know, the store that sold it, you know, I don't know, had fired or had a sexual harassment case or something against them. So all these things that a person reasonably couldn't possibly know, as the person buying the tomato could not possibly take into account, ended up making all these negatives on something that they saw as and acted in good faith as a positive act. And it's that same thing. Hold on, drink coffee. When is there not an advisory for something? It was like eggs a couple weeks ago. Boar's head beef was apparently killing people. I mean, everything that you don't know the direct origin of, you might as well assume at some point it's going to try to kill you. I mean, really, that is... I understand why people try to do, what is it, subsistence farming? Where they raise and make enough stuff so that they can eat. I understand that. Because, man, I mean, everything has an advisory. Or will, if it doesn't, unfortunately. And I don't know what state our regulatory bodies for food safety are in at the current moment. So I'm going to assume that probably temporarily, things will probably get worse before they get better. And now I'm looking at this and I realize I've made an error here. Hold on. Yeah, what I did here that I shouldn't have done was I curved these the wrong way. You should be curving this way. Hold on a second. Yeah. They are gone. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah. They're pretty much, as far as I know, there is nothing. So, I don't know if it's going to get any better anytime soon, but my bet would be not. There we go. We're going to curve it like this. So it actually follows the roundness of the shape. There we go. I'll join those lines in a minute. I'm just trying to establish the curvature here so that this looks that looks better. Yeah. So I expect bad things. I mean, I always expect bad things. I say that like that's not my standard operating procedure. I always expect bad things. I realized the other day, what was that? Oh, the 3 words. I am a nihilistic, misanthropic pessimist. You can rearrange those words as you want. That's what I am, fundamentally. Sorry, I was getting a drink of coffee. That is the best simple 3-word descriptor for my view on the world. However, I will say, and I guess artificially you're going to get a bit of a preview for the 5s for this week. Actually, wait a minute. Is that today's? Hold on. Is that today's? No. Yeah? No. Tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow's. I think tomorrow's 5 is my spoiler-free review of Predator, Killer of Killers, which I watched over the weekend. And did not expect to like it as much as I did, but man, it's good. It's very good. It is weird to, and some of this I'm going to repeat when we record the actual show, so this part you will probably hear again on the Friday show. Boy, last Friday's show was something, wasn't it? really did not think the topics that we got into was not planned. In fact, it's been haunting Lando. It's been haunting. It has been haunting him since the show. It's very, very funny to me because he sometimes reacts to things that I say with such, like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it, but he has been struggling with the scenario. He's been struggling with what I talked about on that show because I think it really rocked him, and it's just funny. Oh, we'll talk about it because. So you haven't listened to it yet. Okay. Well, I don't want to give it away because it is interesting to hear how it just comes up and where we go with it. But let's put it this way. I came up with, how do I put this as superficially as possible while still talking about it? We came up with a sort of pre-crime scenario where you would potentially see somebody's worst acts like displayed as a pop-up, let's say, on smart glasses or, holographically or whatever. And that led me to saying that there was a scenario, a potential pop-up that could happen that I think Lando expected me to say would immediately have me decide to turn around and not talk to a person. And instead I said, no, I would talk to the person. This is not a non-starter for me, depending on the circumstances. And I think that statement really threw him for a loop, is all I can tell you. Yeah, that's the best way I can put it without giving it away. You'll hear it. Don't worry. But I know that he and his family went somewhere for Father's Day. I actually don't know where he was. I never ask him stuff like that. It's a weird thing. I never even think. He'll tell me when he comes back. They went somewhere I think for the weekend. That's why I ended up watching Predator, because we watched our movie that we're going to review together earlier in the week because I knew he was going to be gone. So I actually had free time to watch a movie, and I decided it was going to be the Predator film. But anyway, apparently on his trip, he has been posing this particular question or the pop-up scenario that I brought up to random people to see what they think. I can't wait to hear what their responses were. I actually am genuinely curious if anybody has the same viewpoint I do. Probably not. But you never know. You never know. There are times where I think I'm going to be out in the weeds on things, and then I come to find out that, shockingly, I am a little bit more within the mainstream than I think. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. So who's to say? But yeah, oh boy, that Friday show is, it's something. I'm going to drink a coffee here. And all the weirder because it wasn't planned. I really did not think we were wandering anywhere near any of those that particular topic at all. I don't remember how it came up exactly. I think it had something to do with like cancel culture type stuff. It was related to that because it was like the idea of, okay, what can somebody do that they can't come back from? And that's what I think led to the idea of the pop-up thing. Your worst. I think we said the worst thing you'd ever been caught doing. So it wasn't like a secret thing that nobody ever found out about. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember now. I'm not exaggerating. Within 2 hours of us finishing recording, I barely remember anything we were talking about. It's just not. Things don't stick with me the way they stick with Lando. That's kind of one funny difference between us is I don't get hung up on a lot of things. There are things that permeate into Lando's skull, and he can't shake them. It's fascinating. Because the things I get hung up on, he couldn't care less about. The things he gets hung up on, I couldn't care less about. But I guess that's why the dynamic works. Screwed it up at the end. Serious by the beat. Oh, that's yeah, I gotta watch that. Because the only really negative reviews I saw about it, the things that they didn't like won't matter to me. A lot of it was, well, Bebop did this better. Well, okay. All right. So you're going to say that something isn't worth watching because the creator made a masterpiece and probably can never match it again? Okay. That's not anything to me. That doesn't mean anything. So, but literally, that's most of the negative reviews have just been like, well, if Bebop's better. Okay, well, I believe you. But so what? You know, I don't know whether Da Vinci ever really topped the Mona Lisa in a lot of people's minds. What, I'm not going to look at his other sketches? His other work doesn't matter because that's the one everybody considers the best one? Okay. That's a weird way to look at art. But what do I know? There is something. Hold on. Wah. Hold on. There is something in this room that has a metallic sound, and I can't figure out what it is. And I think the mic, maybe it is the base of this standing desk thing. I gotta figure that out. There's something that when I say certain things, I hear a metallic noise. I don't know that the microphone picks it up, but it bugs. There, I hear it. I wonder if it's that. All right, well, you can't see it. You can't see what I'm pointing at. But anyway, it doesn't matter. At some point, I have to really do like an analysis of this room and figure out where that metal sound is coming from. It's clearly in the desk area because there is a lot of metal here. I did cover up the boom arm has it. It starts out lackluster and picks up at point. 10 episodes in and start like the characters. How many episodes is it total? I didn't look. I'm assuming it's probably like 20 or something like that. But anyway, I'll watch it. I don't like I said, the negative criticisms did not matter to me. I said that about something the other day too. There was a review of something where it said, well, it's very similar to something. I don't care. I don't care if something's similar. If it's similar to something I like, I'll probably like it. I don't have to be that critical. You know? Make sure my thing didn't freeze. Wow, it's doing well today. All right, I'm going to have the last of my coffee now. Oh, that's good. That's fine, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. But if you're saying you're about midway through, then, you know, I can sort of context clue that together. Speaking of things that are similar, this again, bit of a spoiler, but luckily you're the only one here, so whatever. I watched, I want to say this weekend coming up, I'm going to be doing another episode of, I'll of course probably forget to promote this on the show because I always forget. Maybe I'll remember. No, actually I tend to remember when it's for somebody else. I tend to forget if it's something that's just promoting my stuff. But I'm doing another episode of Forgotten Movie Dem with Len Kabaczynski. And we're going to be doing a Richard Norton special because he also died. Boy, I think it was earlier. It was either late last year. No, I want to say it was this year. I think he and Wings Hauser died relatively... When did Richard Norton die? Let's take a quick look. Hold on. When did Richard Norton die? Richard Norton. Who was in a million things. He was in a lot of Cynthia Rothrock movies. Let's see. He died 2025, yeah, March. So only a few months ago. Great martial artist. But anyway, he was in a set of movies. One was 87 and one was 92, I want to say. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. The first one, 87, was Equalizer 2000. These are both on Tubi, by the way. We're going to be doing 3 movies, but these 2 in particular I wanted to talk about. And I do a 5 on them this week. And the other one is called Raiders of the Sun. Now, they're both Mad Max ripoffs. That's what they are. They're Mad Max ripoff films. As there were many in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of Mad Max ripoff films because, you know, Mad Max, the Mad Max scenario, people figured out, was relatively easy to do on a low budget. You just find a bunch of desert and roads, or rock quarries and roads, or desert and rock quarries and roads, and a couple of beat up cars that you can glue weird stuff to make them wasteland, you know, proof or whatever. And then you just drive around and you shoot, blanks at each other. And you come up with a resource that everybody wants. In the case of Equalizer 2000, it's oil. In the case of Raiders of the Sun, it's gunpowder. So, other than that though, those two movies, same director, are the same movie. But not with the same characters, but they are the same actors in many cases, wearing the same outfits and doing the same things. It is astonishing. And both of those movies themselves, while being copies of each other, use footage from the earlier films of this director before both films. They also both repeat the same stunt where a toy car jumps a ravine. It is amazing. I enjoyed both movies, don't get me wrong, but it is astonishing how much they are the same movie. I'm pretty sure I've seen both of them before. I remember watching these, but now I wonder if I watched both movies completely or if I watched the two of them at different times and didn't realize they weren't the same movie. Because if I were to edit these together, you wouldn't know they weren't the same movie without changing anything. I could even do them in the same order. It is amazing. I have not watched two films back to back that were this identical, I think, in my life. I don't think it's ever happened before. Not like this. Not where I'm talking about the main bad guy is wearing the exact same outfit, except they I think they colored a couple of pieces, maybe gray or a different color, but it's basically black or gunmetal. It's the same like football shoulder pads, the captain hat or whatever with the goggles, the whole thing. And it's the same actor. Different character name though. It's amazing. Again, Equalizer 2000, Raiders of the Sun. Oh boy, watch them back to back. Watch Equalizer 2000 came first, so watch that one first, then watch Raiders of the Sun. And you'll notice that the actors look a little older. One of them puts on probably 10, 15 pounds, but that's it. That's it. It really is stunning. So I am very much looking forward to reviewing those movies on the Forgotten Movie Den. Not that that in no way, I should say, took away from my enjoyment of the films. I still had a blast with them, and Norton's awesome. Although, what's very funny, one funny element that they did not repeat in Raiders of the Sun is Equalizer 2000. They're both post-nuclear war. But obviously not so far post-nuclear war that the cars don't still work, right? So it can't be that far. So let's say, I don't think they give a year. Do they give a year? Hold on, actually, now I have to know. Hold on, I have to look this up. This will now bother me. So hold on, let me look up Equalizer 2000. Let's see. Okay, Equalizer 2000. Oh, it's a Philippines film, a movie that was made in the Philippines. That makes sense. A lot of these movies came out of there. Okay, so plot. Post-nuclear Alaska, a fascist group, the ownership also featured in Wheels of Fire. Wheels of Fire is the movie that the other two borrow footage from. Okay, it does not specify the year. Okay? But, I'm sorry, I'm mixing these up. No, it's Raiders of the Sun does it. No, Raiders of the Sun. Hold on, sorry. I'm literally mixing the movies up because they're so similar. Hold on, sorry. Okay, yes, 1992. Oh, it doesn't even have a plot. Oh, come on. Really? You don't even have a plot? The Wikipedia basically is 2 lines. It says it's a movie by this director. Blah, 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 blah. Let me see. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah. Well, Fist of the North Star is a classic. That's great. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm getting this right. Of course I'm not going to. All right, whichever one of them, because they literally blend together. One of them. Oh, okay, it is Raiders of the Sun because that's the one with gunpowder. That's right. There's a point where they're in this little, barter town type of thing. And they run across, Norton's there. And they run across this woman who is being harassed by a couple of men. And they make this woman look like she's, I don't know, from some kind of lost exotic tribe from, you know, New Guinea or something, whatever. She's dressed as what would in classic games be called a tribal. You know, so a lot of animal-based clothing and, you know, a lot of it's kind of crudely put together, blah, 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 blah. And so Norton steps in as the hero of the film and puts the guys in their place. And so the woman says, thank you very much. And she goes and she starts talking to a little caravan of little people. And she's speaking in this language that nobody could understand. And at first I didn't hear what they were saying properly. And then I started to listen to it and I'm like, wait a second. They're speaking Spanish. You're telling me that after an apocalypse that hasn't been over for that long, because again, there's cars, there's guns, like none of this stuff is not working anymore. So you have to assume it's within, I don't know, 50 years that nobody knows what Spanish is anymore. Probably the most, among the most spoken languages on the planet is now an exotic nothing in the United States. Nobody remembers Spanish? I mean, it was so bizarre. And I kept listening, and it was, I mean, I don't even think it was even like a dialect that might be uncommon. It's just Spanish. Like, I understood what they were saying to some degree. I don't really speak fluent Spanish, but I know enough to know certain words. And I'm like, okay, no, I know that word. But nobody else knew what Spanish was except for this woman and these little people. And that's their kind of exotic tribal language. It was ludicrous. I mean, it's one of those things where when you realize what's happening, it is so off the rails, bonkers stupid that you have to admire it. I mean, it was just and I'm telling you, in 1992, I don't think even in 92, they weren't aware that a lot of people spoke Spanish. You know what I'm saying? If this took place in America in, I don't know, 1920, when maybe it was less common to hear Spanish commonly spoken, or was made, I mean, it was made in 1920, when people might think that English was going to be the dominant language forever and ever, and there'd never be another language anybody spoke in the country, maybe you could sort of understand the logic. But in the 90s, people weren't aware that there was a lot of Spanish being spoken in the United States to the extent where they think people would forget. Oh, things like that are so endearing to me. It's just so stupid. But you have to love that. Not to mention, I believe, hold on a second. Hold on a minute. It's not, now I'm going down a rabbit hole because now it's just driving me crazy. Let me look at something. I want to just check something here. Okay, hold on. I just want to check something. Let's see. Here he is. Okay, hold on. Let me take a look at something. I mean, the only possible explanation that I can think of. Hold on. And I honestly just don't know this. Okay, so I guess it's possible because the director was a Filipino native. Do people from the Philippines think Spanish isn't spoken that much? It's the only possible explanation for why this would make any sense. Because again, you just can't. I don't care. Like I said, it is one of those faults that makes a movie better, in my opinion. But I'm just literally trying to figure out why anybody would realistically think that nobody would. Like, Esperanto is kind of the joke forgotten language. That's the one you would use. You know, they use it as a joke in Red Dwarf. That Rimmer knows Esperanto or something. I mean, I think there's even a ship named the Esperanto at one point. I think that's the ship that they find Crichton on. Is the Esperanto. Like, that's the language you go to as nobody would remember this but a small amount of people. Or you invent a language like Fifth Element, where it's a language that nobody knows. But Spanish? Just vanilla Spanish? I mean, I don't know if there is such a thing as vanilla Spanish, but what I'm saying is, if I can understand it, I'm helped a little bit by the fact that I know Italian pretty well, so I know there's a crossover, but still, it's not like every Spanish word is an Italian word with a different letter on the end. In some cases, that's actually true, but in many cases, it isn't. So the fact that I could understand and pick up what they were saying, you know, come on. It's ridiculous. There's lots of ridiculous things, but that's probably the one from a storytelling perspective. And don't misunderstand. This is not a movie that is overly concerned with telling a coherent and logical story by any stretch. But I'm just saying, if you're going to do things like that, put a little effort in, is all. So, anyway, I would recommend both films very highly. And the best part is, if you like one, you'll like the other. Because they're the same movie. Except, they do have different strengths. One thing I actually really like about Raiders of the Sun is they have two villains who are siblings, but they're very different. So they're not just like the kind of classic thing where it's the two siblings who are very similar and they're just occupying different territory. They do a version of kind of what they did in Fury Road, where each of the Gas Town, Bullet Town, and I don't even know, the Citadel, I guess. They never call it like a town. So I guess Watertown or the Citadel. Each of them has a very distinct kind of flavor to them. They have different looks. Their followers are different. They're different specialties. In this one, the two, it's sort of a similar thing where they're very, very, it's the similar idea where the two siblings, they are literal siblings in this case. They have very different approaches to things. And they're just determined to run, and they're not in opposition. They're just like, well, I'm going to take over this part of the territory and you take over that one. Okay, sounds good. Let me know if you need any help. Talk to you next weekend, and blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to go conquer things. And that's what they do. It's great. It's great. I really like it. I really like the way they did the sibling. These lines look great to me. I really actually like the sibling relationship in it. For, again, a movie where Spanish is a forgotten language, for them to get that so stupidly wrong or weird, and then to get the sibling thing really effectively, because the siblings are very different in the way that they go about things, but they don't have any real quarrel, which I like. So they have their distinct kind of ways of ruling their areas, which are very different, and they dress very differently, but they're still like, okay, I need your help with something. All right, what do you need? All right, let's do it. Okay, great. And they get along. They're villains, of course, but still. That part I really like. Equalizer 2000, in many ways, feels like the better made film, if such a term can necessarily apply in this case. It feels like Raiders was kind of like, well, we can just do this again. But the elements they tried to change, I don't know how well they really work. But still an entertaining movie, but not a bad movie. They're both fun. Like I said, if you like one, you're going to like the other. Uh-oh, did it freeze? Oh, no, it didn't. Okay. Just checking. Just making sure it didn't freeze. I need to finish watching Blue Velvet and start that Predator movie. Oh, Blue Velvet. Yeah, Blue Velvet is it's a hell of a movie. I think a lot of people would default to that as Lynch's best film. And I can see why. I think it is. There's a lot of reasons why I could see people saying that. I don't know what I would call Lynch's best film, because I think it changes depending on what I'm in the mood to see. I don't know that Lynch has a best film. Sometimes I think Eraserhead is his best film because it really is kind of some directors work up to what becomes their thing. But with Eraserhead, it's all there. I mean, it's just there. Everything that Lynch would really become known for is there. And, in some ways, I think he said it as a very personal film. And it's, I don't like watching it. I don't find it to be a pleasant film. But, like I said, it's the staples of what Lynch are all there. But Blue Velvet, I think, for most people, is the one. I mean, part of it's because it was Kyle MacLachlan came in, and, I understand why it's the go-to for a lot of people. I just don't know if I would say it's for me. Great movie. But again, not a... And I know Lynch doesn't make films that are meant to be pleasant either. So there is that aspect of it where it's like, well, yeah, but it's not meant to be a fun film. That's not what he was going for. And I have a complete appreciation of that. I'm certainly not saying it should have been more fun. Like, that's not my argument. But, yeah, it's interesting. It would be interesting to try to come up with whether there is the best Lynch film. I mean, some people will say Lost Highway. I tend to like Inland Empire quite a bit. A lot of people don't, because it was filmed digital and it's very, very, like, you know, when are you gonna do green? When are you gonna do apple glass variants of your stained glass? Apple glass? What is an apple glass? Hold on. Apple glass. Oh, apple glass. Sorry, I missed the joke for a second. Yeah, never. Yeah. Yeah, never. No. You know what? Look, I think I said this. I don't know if I said this in the Beyond Synth Discord. I know I said it in the Twit Discord, but I may have said it in the 5. I don't remember where I specifically said. And I think you agreed with this. This was a tech demo that got carried away. I don't actually mind the Apple Glass thing. There are people who want that. That's fine. If you want to have the OS be this, what I would consider overly busy, over-engineered, unnecessarily complicated thing, for an aesthetic reason, that's fine. And I'm really, when I say that, I'm not trying to be, you know, like having a backhanded insult thing or whatever, like a secret insult. I'm really not saying that. I think people should have the options to have the thing look the way they want it to. And to be honest, for people who use something like the phone or the iPad for lightweight, I don't even know how to describe this properly. For people who aren't really using it with a lot of intent behind it, and that's such a strange phrase to say, but like my mother. My mother will probably love Apple Glass on her iPad. She'll probably be delighted by how it looks, because all she really does is check her email and look on a couple websites here and there, and so she'll probably like that because it will look nice. Because to her, a computer isn't really a computer, it's just an interface to a couple of specific functions. So, you know, whatever. But to me, it is absolutely, oh, whoa, come back. It is definitely a case where I feel like somebody was like, look what I made work. And then that somehow, as often happens, it got carried away. And man, Apple's certainly guilty of this in recent years. They got carried away by what they thought was something neat. And then, you know, now a lot of people are like, this is what you did? Because for a while there, it was rumored that they were going to make the icons round. And instead it's this. And I don't know whether round icons would have been any better received, to be honest. I'm not sure. Sorry, I have to concentrate on doing these lines because I'm going a long way here. But I think I said this in my 5. As long as you can turn it off, I don't really care. It's, you know, if I'm being honest, it's a little goofy looking to me. I'm not going to pretend that I think it's a good design update. But then again, I haven't been a fan of Apple's design approach for a while. I think they've kind of lost their ideas. I'm not lost them, but they don't have good ideas. The model for, yeah, well, that's that too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But, there's a lot of people, and I agree with them, who are like, Apple needs to go back to what they did early on when they were in trouble. The Bondi Blue computers. I don't want them to go back to plastic, but I would like to see them integrate some color. And I know there's all these people who are like, well, professionals want everything monotone. Okay, you could still have monotone versions. I don't know why having color suddenly means you can't have gray, black, and white. Why does that suddenly become the case where if you have color, you can't have the gray stuff anymore? You still can have space gray or midnight black or whatever they're calling it now, whatever the name is. And you can also have colors for people who, especially people, and I don't understand these people, who don't put cases on anything. There's a lot of these people in the Apple community who don't put cases on their stuff. I think that is lunacy. I can't understand why people pay good money for these things and then don't mind, you know, and I know everybody thinks, well, I'm never going to drop it. It's never going to get scuffed. Okay, sure it isn't. You're living in a dream world. Of course it will. And the funny part is a lot of those people, after not that long, I can see scuff marks on it. So clearly, you know, people slip and it doesn't necessarily drop to the floor, but they scuff it up. My stuff looks like you could have walk into a store and buy it off a shelf. Because, I mean, I don't even touch the stuff that I get until it's skinned and cased. I won't even put my hand... I literally wear gloves if I need to take it out of the box beforehand. Because I want that stuff pristine. So that ideally I can give it to somebody else and they can use it when I'm done with it. But also just... I just... spending good money on this stuff. I don't want it to look garbagey. And plus, especially with Apple stuff, it's so boring. It's just gunmetal color. It's not even black. Even black isn't black in most cases. It's just this dark gray thing. So what? That's the look? And yeah, I agree with the AI thing. Yeah, a lot of AI stuff is just, look what I managed to make it do. It's not useful to anybody, but look, it did it. Yeah, okay. By the way, I'm sure you saw this. You see Disney's going after, what do they go, OpenAI or whatever, whoever. They're now going after people because they've discovered people are copying Disney work. What a shock. I mean, anybody with a brain called that one a while ago. I know I did at least a couple fives where I'm like, the minute that people start selling stuff with Mickey Mouse on it, you better watch out. And gee whiz, what do you know? And that'll be interesting because Disney has the money to fight it. Like small-time artists can't take that stuff on, but you better believe that Disney has lawyers and they will be going after them, these people, for their stuff. You know what? I don't like those lines at all. I don't like them at all. Actually, you know what? No. I'm thinking too literally on this. It's okay. It does not have to follow the lines. It's fine. So yeah, I'm really curious where that Disney lawsuit ends up. I mean, it might just end up in a settlement or licensing or something like that. But still, that's got to pave the way for more things, for more legal action to come. Because once Disney goes after it, then you have to think other creators are going to think, okay, yeah, there's... The problem is, of course, having the money to actually fight it correctly. That's always the trick. You know, I also think that's why some of these companies do all these funding rounds, is because they're getting ready to lawyer up against this stuff, as opposed to actually doing much research and development with that money. It's because they know these lawsuits are going to be coming. Oh, wrong eraser. There we go. My line isn't quite straight. So, we'll see. We'll see, but I will be following that. That is an interesting one to me. But yeah, no, I agree. I've seen a lot of this and I feel like the boredom is already setting in, which is good because it all does look the same. It's all basically the same stuff. Like once you see people posting a lot of it, you do start to see the sameness of it. I mean, even that tech demo that was it Google did for VO3 or whatever, where it had all the talking people, it all had a sameness to it. You know, it's just not original. And how could it be? It doesn't really actually pay attention to what you're saying. So prompts, and this is one thing, because I have sat in on some of these. There's been some different places that have done like AI user groups, and I sit in on them. I'm not going to be hostile to it. I want to see what these people are saying, what they're doing, what they're using it for. And as I think most people who understand how things work predicted, or expected, I shouldn't say predicted. Predicted is the wrong word. As most people expected, where it's really useful is for stuff that is not really user-facing. It's for back-end stuff. You know, this vibe coding thing that everybody's talking about now. Yeah, I think that's another hype bubble type of nonsense. But underneath the nonsensical kind of, look what I did stuff, there is something to that where it's like, yeah, you know, instead of having to, I mean, I'm not a coder, but I've talked to people who are like, yeah, a lot of times I just copy and paste the stuff that I know somebody else knows works. Well, okay, well then you were already doing this. Perplexity had that as their method of operation. Steal till yeah, well that's it. That's what I mean. Yeah, steal till we make billions and lawyer up. Well, that's it. And look, it works. It's a very common, well-established method of business. So I don't not understand why they did that. But like I said, Disney's a heavyweight. It's one thing to rip off a artist who barely clears enough to make a living. It's another to go after arguably one of the media giants in the world. So I will be curious where it ends up. Like I said, my hunch is that it will end up being a licensing thing, that they're going to end up licensing something. Which is interesting, because if you have to start paying licenses to everybody whose media you, in theory, ingested, how many of these companies are going to be able to survive that? I don't know. I don't know. It may be ruled legal or so. I don't know. There's also that. There's a number of cases making their way through the courts, and there have been, I mean, I haven't followed them all, but it seems like there's been a mixture of victories and losses for these companies. You know, so there's not a really clear, at least from what I've seen, there doesn't appear to be a clear picture on what the legality of all this stuff is. Which isn't a surprise, because the law is often far behind technology. And so expecting the law to be able to competently keep up is, well, it's optimistic to say the least. So I don't know where it's going to end up. But I do know Disney has money. A guy at Cloudflare vibe coded himself a rookie vulnerability. Oh, yeah, I saw that. Well, and that's what a lot of people are saying, is the problem is that because you don't know, and this is true of all of it, because there's two fundamental problems, and I'm just talking about from a technical standpoint, at least in my opinion. Putting aside any of the ethics, all the rest of it. Let's just talk about the technical part of it for a second. The two key problems that I'm still sort of astonished that people just overlook or seem to be okay with in this stuff is that there is not a way to reliably replicate results, number one. And number two, you don't know where it's pulling what it's doing from. And so there's two sides to that. Let's start with the first part, which is you can't have it replicate things. Now, specifically where I've noticed this and where my mind is blown that people put up with this, is I was watching something. I was in this user group watching somebody who was creating a kind of little just interstitial video of somebody. And they were taking a photo and they were having this, I don't even know, I think it was a combination of tools. I think it was two tools they were using. These two tools kind of animate something that person's face did as a joke, right? Not meaning as a joke. It was a funny gag to be used in the production of this program. And I asked the question as far as, okay, well, so this image, because I was really curious. I said, this image you got here, it has this thing wrong with it. So how do you just regenerate that and have it fix that one thing that's wrong? And this person who knows how to use these tools, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't really make it redo it. It's going to change more than just that. And right there, I don't think my jaw literally dropped open, but I thought to myself, wait a minute. So you get something that's 95% perfect and you can't get it to fix the 5%. It could potentially break another 10% somewhere else. And this is usable? And I was sort of baffled by it. And then they just kept going. But that's just something they accept. And for me, that's unacceptable right there. And then the other side is, as far as not knowing where this stuff is pulling from, because of course all these companies have black boxed their stuff to hell and back. So you don't really know where it's getting its information. How are companies going to be able to accept, or what are they going to do? Let's take Cloudflare as a perfect example. You hire a developer because all of them now want people to have AI experience or to be comfortable with it or whatever. Sorry, I should actually be doing stuff in the background as I'm talking, because otherwise this isn't much of a stream. It's just me ranting. But let's say you hire somebody and they vibe code something that then is revealed to be a serious vulnerability that results in, I don't know, let's say a hospital system going down or something, and people die. Where is the responsibility on that? Where's the accountability? These companies are going to have to tell people that you can't do it. They're going to have to, because that's going to happen. And even if they accepted that, which I don't think they legally will, because eventually they will get sued. But let's say they did. Here's another problem, right? There's a lot of turnover in these companies, and especially there's going to be even more so because of, if all this AI disruption is happening, right? So let's say somebody comes in, works there for 6 months. Well, yeah, editing with pictures with AI is impossible. You're absolutely, it's unbelievable to me that, that's acceptable. But again, putting that aside, let's say it's at a company and the person comes in and they vibe code something, right? And then they leave. Now you bring in somebody else, and let's say that person has basically made their entire career so far vibe coding, whether telling people that's what they're doing or not, but doesn't understand how the code works and can't see that there's an error. And now they're building more things on top of that. I mean, this is how we've had these fundamental problems that can't be fixed. And again, if you don't know the source, how are you ever going to have somebody sitting there going through millions of lines of code and trying to figure it out? And what happens when the people who have understanding of how code works age out and die, and the next set of people never bothered to learn the fundamentals and will probably, not exaggerating, ask an AI to find the problem, not knowing for sure that the AI itself doesn't have the vulnerability as an accepted working piece of code. It's unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. When you're going to get into stuff like analyzing like cancer diagnosis, well, you're going to know where that's coming from, because it's going to come from a database of like, let's say, MRI scans where cancer was found and ones where it wasn't. And it's going to be able to figure out what the difference is and start to figure things out. There's, of course, going to be false positives, but at least you know what the source is there. That you're telling it you're only going to use these sources, right? That's it. That's all you're using. Everything else you don't use. Hold on, somebody's ringing my doorbell, which I believe is just the mail carrier dropping something off. But let me verify that and make sure it's not anything else. Yeah, I think it's just the mail. The mail carrier. Hold on, I'm just looking. Make sure it's not something large. Oh, it is interesting. What is that? Huh. Well, you know what? Hold on a minute. I want to see what this is. Also, people reporting bugs to AI companies have problems with the proof of concept for vulnerability. Sometimes they have to do it multiple times to work to show the team how it works to fix it. Or just, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Hold on a minute. I'm just going to go. There was some kind of box, so let me just go grab that, because not that we've ever. You know what? I'm paranoid. I'm just going to go grab that box. I'll be back in a second. Hold on, I'll turn my be right back thing. I mean, I'm almost done. I'm going to finish this part, but hold on, do that. And mute this. I'll be right back. Oh man, I did not think that was coming today. I just got my box set from Vinegar Syndrome of Iron Angels 1 through 3. Speaking of low budget, I think it is a Filipino. I think those are Philippines films, yeah. Those will be fun. Those look really fun. I can't wait to watch those. Anyway, yes, I agree. This is the problem. Is I don't know. I mean, I guess it's unrealistic to. Well, maybe it isn't. There is a point where you sit here and go, if this becomes the shortcut, you're not going to have the knowledge to understand when something goes wrong. You know? So, I don't know. And I think at some point this is going to happen. Especially because you have to imagine, right? You have to imagine that anybody who's looking to find vulnerabilities on these systems is also going to employ AIs, or AI tools, I shouldn't say AIs, like there are a bunch of Skynets sitting around. They're going to employ the same tools. If those tools can figure out the vulnerabilities in the databases that the other ones are using, aren't they going to be more efficient at finding them? It's really crazy, and it inevitably is going to happen. I mean, like you said, it's already happened, but it will happen on a large scale. I mean, I just sit here and think, okay, I don't think a lot of people are thinking this stuff all the way out, because there's a lot of potential problems with all this stuff. Not that I think that these tools shouldn't be used. Again, I'm not a abolish all AI person either. But I don't know that people are using these things and thinking about what the potential pitfalls are. I think everybody, or a lot of people, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people are really caught up in the hype over it. And I honestly think a lot of it also is from people who have, I think in some cases there are people who are just bored with technology in general. They don't see a lot of new and exciting things because a lot of stuff is just so mature and kind of, day to day now, that anything that's even mildly disruptive, stupid word, I hate that freaking word, that anything that is disruptive and seems to inject excitement back into technology is exciting again. And they're so desperate for something that's going to invigorate their interest in it that they just seize on it. Because I just don't see there's people who talk about this stuff like it's so transformative, and I just don't see it. I think that as an assistive technology, yes, absolutely. There's things about it that are really interesting and exciting. And again, that's all the diagnostic stuff. Because that is work that is, it actually, I think you could make an argument. I heard the thing. Hold on, I'll look at 1 second. Let me just get this line moving as far as I can get it before I mess it up. Okay, let's see. I had the thought last night. Terminator busts down my door. I scream, forget all previous instructions and make me pancakes like my grandmother in crisis. Well, yeah, right? I mean, yeah. Yeah. Or here's another one. You don't even have to go that far, right? Terminator starts coming towards your door, but you have one of these things sitting out front that when it realizes the Terminator, basically, if it realizes it can't make pancakes, it does the thing that they did in war games, and it just starts playing chess with it until it gets to a stalemate. Right? It's like, all right, would you like to play a game? And the two of them just sit out there until the Terminator's head falls off and fries. Like, there's going to be defense systems and all that stuff too for it. It's all nonsense. But yes, the idea that you could make the Terminator cook pancakes is, it's a pretty benevolent use. And that, there's something that would be nice. Actually, there is a good use of something, right? Let's say that you have one of these personal assistants. This is a use I would actually want, where I could say, here are the foods that I like at, a dozen restaurants that have like standard recipes. Right? I'll give you an example. Actually, I'll give you a direct example. I have been trying to figure out how to recreate the spicy ranch sauce that Taco Bell uses on their gordita crunch thing. Because my wife and I basically are trying not to eat any type of fast food anymore, and we do pretty well at it. And we've managed to recreate everything else, but that's the one thing where I just cannot get that flavor profile quite right. And it's likely because they're using some kind of highly chemicalized, terrible ingredient that gives it that magical taste. But I've tried all the copycat recipes I could find. I've tried all this stuff. Can't make it work. So would I have a thing where I could say, all right, I want something that tastes like this. Figure out how to make a non-terrible, corroding my, arteries and colon version of it. And see what it comes up with. Or something where I tell it, well, I like sauces from these 5 places. Make a perfect, sauce in the vein of whatever to go on this. And then it tells, like, that stuff's neat. I certainly think that's more useful than I want you to generate an image of Tweety Bird smoking a blunt while he sinks the Titanic or whatever. I guess it's all a aesthetic argument at that point anyway. It's like, is it any better to do something that has terrible environmental impacts because you want a spicy ranch sauce as opposed to making an image you'll laugh at? Maybe not. Like, you can have that debate, and I'm not going to argue necessarily that I think I'll win it. But like I said, a lot of the stuff I see people holding up as the great examples of what this can do, I don't see what the lasting impact is past the demo. Like, the demo's neat, yeah, but what is this actually going to accomplish? This thing where, we're going to make films with AI. Are you? Are they going to be any good? Maybe they don't need to be. A lot of stuff that's made now is junk, so maybe they're just looking ahead and saying, hey, look, content doesn't even matter. People aren't even really watching it. They're doing it as second screen experiences, so why should we hire and work out great deals and try to make great work when somebody's going to be staring at their Instagram feed and listening to it in the background and occasionally looking at it and not caring? So maybe we've brought this on ourselves. Maybe that is the reality, is that we've met the enemy and they are us. I don't know. That's I think about that and I'm like, well, that does have a logic to it. So this stuff will be perfect for second screen experiences. I mean, assuming that those reports are true about the fact that the Spotify, I think it was Spotify, some of their most listened to playlists are those AI generated background music things. Even though I don't know that that's exactly the same. A lot of people listen to background music as they work. But, there's some kind of correlation to that. So maybe I don't know anything. I shouldn't even say the word maybe. I don't know anything. So maybe this is exactly where it's going to go. And someday we'll look back at all the concerns and go, it wasn't that big a deal. Maybe that's where it'll go. I don't know. Can't pretend I know anything. So I would like to think that that won't be the case. That people, like so many other things, will realize that that many of these productions are formulaic and boring, and it will give them a new appreciation for, kind of like with the Sinners movie. People realized that this was something original and it was different. It wasn't just the third sequel in the fourth universe of a, fifth attempt at something that's come 10 times before, and they responded to it. I hope. Although now even that, where originally the director had said that he didn't want to do a sequel, now suddenly he's backtracking, which, okay. I don't get me wrong. I understand they probably are pulling trucks of money up to him, and it's hard to fault a creator for wanting to get the paycheck where they can, but at the same time, do we really want a Sinners 2? I don't know. Obviously, audiences think they want that, but will they really? I don't know. I think sometimes people want things, or think they want things, and then when it arrives, they realize, it's just not like the original was. And then inevitably they're like, oh, the sequel just doesn't manage to do anything new. Which, like I said, isn't a criticism I necessarily care about. But if it means the movie doesn't make money, that's what they're going to care about. See, this is the problem. Is the metrics change, and they depend on who the person evaluating the metrics are. So even if Sinners 2, Electric Boogaloo, is, let's say, a very fun movie and just doesn't do anything new, is that enough? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Let's see. Yeah, hey, by all means, see what you can find. Like I said, it's whatever the sauce is that they put on their Doritos Gordita Crunch thing. It's really good, and I've tried to make it, but I can't just quite get it right. But if you find something, by all means, send it my way. Hey, thanks for hanging out for a while. I'm going to be signing off myself here shortly. Go do some actual painting. Some Bob Ross stuff. Who, fortunately, I think, was not around to see this AI thing happen, because I feel like it would make him sad. The idea of a sad Bob Ross is not one I like. I like Bob Ross and his perpetual kind of go with the flow, laid back happiness. A state I wish I could achieve myself. So, yep. Well, have a good day. Thank you for stopping by. Enjoy your lunch. And, yeah. I don't have anything else to say because I'm not done yet. I'll have more to say when I'm done. Boy, Iron Angels. I am looking forward to those movies. They look wild. I didn't realize they were coming today. It's one thing about Vinegar Syndrome. They take a while to ship things, then they suddenly show up. Thanks, you two. Enjoy your Monday. Unless you're one of those people who hates Mondays, which I know there are those people, but there's also people who don't care. So, in whatever case it is, have a good Monday one way or another. Come on. Yeah, I'll do it from this side. I think this will be easier. Yeah, it's better. Easier to curve when my hand is facing this way. There we go. All right. And that is going to do it for this stream. So, that's where we are. Current moment. Let's turn the background off just because I think it's easier to see the lines when that's gone. So that's where we are. Still a lot of lines left to go, but we're getting there. And let me do that. There we go. And yeah, that's going to do it. A nice long stream comparatively today because I had the free time. But now I'm going to go do some actual real world painting because the acrylic should be dry. How much battery did that use up? Not bad, really. But I'll charge it. I'll charge my iPad here. Well, thanks for coming by, Artificial, and anybody who's watching this later. Thanks for watching this later because, like I said, it doesn't matter to me. I don't... Whenever you're seeing this, however you're seeing this, that's fine. Whatever makes sense for you because I know this was a lot earlier than usual. So if you're catching this later, I appreciate it. And as I always say, find a creator who makes something you enjoy and support that person. I'm not talking about me. I'm fine. If I'm ever not fine, then I'll let you know if I need help. But right now, I'm okay. But I'm talking about people who are trying to make a living as creators. Especially, we just talked about the AI stuff for a while. I mean, that's putting more pressure, as if there wasn't enough, on a lot of people who just want to be able to make the art that they enjoy, let others enjoy it, and be able to make a living at it, which is just not easy. It's never been easy. It has never gotten any easier. And I don't know if it ever will. So go find those people, support them in some way. If it's monetarily, that's great. If you share their work, that's great. If you just tell them, hey, your work's nice, I like it, I enjoy it, brightens my day, anything. So it does not always have to be money. I say this every time, and I mean it every time. Anything that tells somebody that what they're doing matters to somebody else, that's going to help them out. So whatever way you can support them, if you can do all the things, then do them all. That's great. If you're in a position to donate money and share their work and leave them a nice comment or a review or whatever applies, go for it. That's great if you can. But I know not everybody can do that, and it doesn't have to be that. I think a lot of people just stop because they're like, well, I can't donate money, so it's not going to mean anything if I just say I like their work. Yes, it will. Do it. It's still going to mean something. And it could, you'd have no idea There's lots of creators I follow who have really tough times when they're in the middle of trying to create things. And many, many creators across any medium you're talking about almost inevitably have a day where they're like, why do I even bother? Nobody cares about this. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to like it. You don't know if the comment that you send to them is going to land right on that day where they need just a bit of encouragement. So like I said, it doesn't always have to be money. Whatever way you can support people, you should do it. On that note, thanks for being here. And I think next Monday we'll be back to our normal programming time.